Hello, lovely people. We are back with chapter 19 of John. It's a continuance of 18. So, but it does have a title. It says, Jesus sentenced to be crucified. It's getting to the end. And every gospel has a different taking of it because they saw something different. But chapter 19, here we go. John chapter 19. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. The soldiers twisted together two crowned thorns and put them on his head. They clothed him in purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, King of Jews!" And they slapped him in the face. One more, once more, Pilate came out and said to the Jews gathered there, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I have found no basis to charge him against him." When Jesus came out wearing the purple crown on his and I'm sorry, I apologize. Where was that? Let me go back to the beginning. Once one one more Once more Pilate came out and said to the Jewish leaders gathered, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis to charge against him." Now Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Here is a man." And as soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis to charge against him." The Jewish leaders insisted, "We have the law, and according to the law, he must die, because he claims to be the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid, and he went back inside the palace. Where do you come from?" he asked Jesus. Jesus gave him no answer. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize I have the power either to free you or to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Therefore, the one who has handled me, the one that has handed me over to you is guilty of their sins." For from then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are not friends of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." Then Pilate heard this. He brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat. And at the, when Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at the palace known as the Stone Pavement, which is Aramaic and Gothic. It was the day of preparation of the Passover, and it was noon. It was about noon. "He is your king. Here is your king," Pilate said to the Jews. But they brought, but they shouted, "Take him away! Take him away! Crucify him!" "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. So the soldiers took him charge. I'm sorry. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus, carrying his own cross. He went out to the place of the skulls. There they crucified him, and with him 2 other men, one on either side of Jesus, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of Jews." Many of the Jews read the signs of the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priest of the Jewish the chief priest of the Jews protested that Pilate do not write the King of Jews, but this man claimed to be the King of Jews. Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took the clothes, divided them into shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. The undergarment was seamless, woven in one place from the top to the bottom. Let's not tear it, they said to one another. Let's decide by the lot of who will get it. This happened that the scripture may be fulfilled. They divided my clothes among them and cast lots for their garment, so that So this is what the soldiers did. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary's, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciples whom he loved standing nearby, and said to her, "Woman, here is your son," and the disciples, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the disciples took her into her home. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so the scriptures would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." The jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stick of the cypress plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be the special Sabbath. Because the Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, They asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers therefore came, broke the legs of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus, and then those other ones. But when they came to Jesus and found that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced Jesus in the side, bringing sudden flow of blood and water. The man who saw it was given testimonies that his testimony is true. He knew that he told the truth and the testimony so that you also may believe. These things happened so that the scripture would be fulfilled. No one of these, not one of his bones was broken. And as another scripture says, they took a look on the one they have pierced. Later, Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now, Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jewish leaders. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloe and about 75 pounds. Take Jesus' body to the two men and wrap it with spices and strips of linen. This was in accordance to the Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, and in which no one had ever been laid, because it was a Jewish day and preparations, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there.